Greetings and welcome. This is Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you're doing well. I remain humble in the presence of Spirit and present thoughts to all the, as one practitioner puts it, the good people in California, the hard-working, honest, living human beings who have been affected by the wildfires, and that is just terrible to see. Trigger warning: the subject matter is of a mature nature and deals with true crime events. Disclaimer: all cases are treated as alleged until proven in a court of law. The recent news of Mike Rinder passing on January the 5th, January the 5th, of course popped up on my dashboard, and initially I was thinking, let's look at his passing, but I don't believe, obviously I don't think there's anything untoward. We will go a bit deeper if need be, if I'm led that way, but that was the initial premise of this episode. And interesting to point out, and I'll only reveal what we know in the media, with Mike Rinder being the whistleblower for having been entrenched in the Scientology, and of course we know he was a whistleblower, and he has a 16-7. 7 is about justice. Now, I wanted to explain something here because there is a common theme. In fact, I'm just going to take this here quickly. There's a backwards and forwards how close I should put him next to these people. Interestingly, I think I want to point out here, you'll see with David, he has a 16-7 in the year that he's born. And let me just highlight this here. Well, it's not really red. Let's make it purple, because I'm going to speak to 16-7 from a spiritual aspect, because we are dealing with spirituality, supposedly. Okay, why is 16-7 important? Now, there is another 16-7 here in the Sea Org, which is a part of, so we'll highlight it there anyway. We'll highlight it there anyway, but Sea Org will have a different meaning. 16-7, I'm going to just deselect that, sorry. Because as far as I understand it, and the little bit I've read, and trust me, I would need probably 5 years or 10 years or 15 years to fully grasp what this is all about. But based on the numbers, this 16-7 would be in the context of Sea Org, and would speak about surveillance. On one hand, it can speak about maritime, but we'll get there. The issue with Sea Org and maritime is that 20 outcome 2 is hidden. So all intensive purposes, this was all about Navy, right? So why would the water number 20 outcome 2 be hidden? So what was the actual real truth about that 20 outcome 2? And if you followed the hurricane videos, I'll just pop up some thumbnails as I speak. In those readings, we discovered there's a 20 outcome 2. There is a 30 outcome 3 and a 40 outcome 4 in the hurricane sequences, which spoke about, in the context of what was going on, other worlds, And when I spotted this hidden 20 outcome 2 here, why would there... It's like you're actually hiding your vessels from sight. But we'll get there. The 16-7 in these characters' names, in these characters' dates, these 16-7s. The 16-7 is a very, now we go spiritual, right? Is a very powerful, strong spiritual number. In the spiritual world, it's called the psychic. If you want to say secular, or even in Scientology or whatever, 16-7 indicates religion. 6 is human. 7, we can say, not so much the divine, but God, if you want to call it that. Being. The higher being. Okay? Anyway. The 16-7 is the religious numbers. In many cases when we'll see people who are either practitioners or non-practitioners, but want to be practitioners. When I mean practitioners, working like I do, or astrology, not so much astronomy, astrology or tarot, or any metaphysical application, right? Let's call it that. Or if you straight out of Boston, excuse me for using that example, you're more likely to find yourself in a church. Okay, and you would go either the priestly route or the Catholic route, and you become a priest or a nun or whatever it is, right? That's what 16-7 is. You can say it's the human in contact with the higher being, or the higher, you know what I mean. So all 3 characters here have that number. So we can say on one hand, yes, they are working in the right field. If you want to take it as wide as possible, when you call it, let's say, working in the field of religion or belief systems, whatever you want to call it. So that's quite an interesting number, and they all have it. Now, interestingly, David has the 16-7 in the year that he's born. So that's a very dominant position. Now, if you look at 16-7, so yes, this is what I find interesting about the 3 of them even, but particularly the 2 of them, yeah, because now David has now become the number 1, right? That is in, as far as we understand it, open source, that he is now he's the second leader, right? After the novelist, so-called novelist. He's only got the novelist here, 13-4. So when I started looking at it, saying his whole, well, what I've read, big novelist, yes, science fiction, blah, 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 blah. But there's only the authorship number here. So what was the actual agenda? And of course, now we see it played out in reality, right? This is the agenda. The link here was 16-7. The reason why this is interesting to me, and it's just a feeling, there's 20 outcome 2. So there's what I'm getting to, if we had to go back in past lives, previous lives, heritage, background, 16-7 with him, David and Hubbard, there's a link. And likewise with Mike. Okay, so what I'm saying is there is already a spiritual, metaphysical connection between the 3 of them already. Now, I want to point out, while I was doing and now, full disclosure, you can, and if you're actually from Scientology watching, you're either doing your 16/7 surveillance, or, would you even be watching this kind of thing? But if you are, welcome. There are many listed court cases or indictments that have gone down, lots of criminal activity within Scientology, that it's on open record, public record. It's probably not as bad as Rome, but it's probably second place. There is issues around children, cases around children or child abuse, trafficking, right? 22.4. Now, Office of Special Affairs is, colloquially, if you don't know, I learned this for myself the first time now. Office of Special Affairs is the equivalent of the CIA within Scientology, by all accounts. Thereabout. Probably 0.01 difference. The only information, there is a lot of information, but in terms of numbers, 1966 founded gives us the 22.4. With an outcome 4. In the +9 we get, and I'll just put it here, 13.4. Children. In the +9 on that one, 31.4, very alarming. Now this is hidden, hidden. Remember, the 369 technique I use, those are what's hidden behind the, I almost want to say, the red curtain. When we're dealing with clandestine operations, people of the like and of the like. Now here's alarming number, 31.4 in the +9. Now, when we're dealing with trafficking, court cases, police cases, documentation, 31.4 is the propensity to manipulate the evidence, change the evidence. There's another word for it. Almost like you want to stage your evidence, or you're going to say what the evidence is yourself. Okay, so that's quite interesting with all those child trafficking courts or issues around them. There's all the children numbers. Now, what bugs me when we see a 50 outcome 5 year, this 50 outcome 5, anything goes kind of people. The only question is your place or mine, and how many kids are coming with, how many teenagers are coming with, are there boys and girls and girls kind of number. If it's tweaked in the right way, tweaked. The classic pedo number, 14.5. Can't miss it anywhere. 41.5 in the theme of evidence destroying or destroying of evidence. 41.5 is actually, here's a continuation of, this is interesting. We saw it in one of the court channels that I profiled. So 31.4 is tampering with the evidence, paperwork. 41.5 is then even taking that paperwork and you can even say recreating it and presenting it to court. Interesting. 23.5, of course, there is the wider grouping community. Now, a 5, and no disrespect to any of the 5s, this doesn't mean it's you. This is when the lever is turned far to the right in the negative, as far negative as you can get it, with other conditions, other tastes, other preferences. 23.5, let's include everyone, the wider group. There's a bigger community involved. This 34.7 here, in the +9, this 34.7 is an issue as well. In the +9, it gives us 43.7, which speaks about a staging. A staging, this, yeah. Why? Because there's these. So there's quite a bit of juxtaposition with his numbers. If we look at the author, 13.4, 16.7 is where we get into the marvelous, the religious. 3, oh, this is, I never spotted this now. He's got 333s. Now, this is where we get things like control issues. When someone has too many 3s, one number on its own is powerful, right? So when you have multiple numbers, 3, so he's got 333s, speaks about control. But now when you get multiple 3s, it's like excessive control. We're just looking at the concept of control. This is why I would imagine, based on hearsay, speculation, what people are talking about and saying about Scientology, here is where your control center sits. So we've got Scientology, Church of Scientology, founded December 1953. So we see a 12.3 there, so there's a common link. Speaks about control. And founded 1953. So here's another interesting spiritual number. Now, this applies to any number. And of course, there are many examples of cults, religious leaders, fanatics, all those that are extreme, right? Now, obviously, it applies to religious people in that. And let me just say, 18.9 is a very powerful spiritual number, because now we not only, for example, 16.7, human engaging with the higher one, but when you get to 18.9, is the 8 gives you the ability to communicate about the divine, even bigger. Now, that's in the positive. And in the negative, when 18.9, if it's tweaked, pushed, leave it to the far right as negative, or however you want to look at it, as negative as possible, the worst case scenario can be maniacal. I almost want to say you got to die for your cause, almost. 18.9 can also take things to the extreme. And this is the thing with 9s. 9s are 9 is beautiful. People with 9s, beautiful. If you go just over maximum, or you go beyond the limit, if you want to look at it that way, it can be a detrimental number. And a very dark number, on the other hand, it can speak about anti-creation. Okay. So, of course, all the right numbers in play, but it's how far do you want to take the lever on a number. And we see here 28, 10, 1, 19, 10, 1. So definitely has the fortitude and ability to take an idea, or even he may have even written, I don't know how he started the whole church thing. He may have even written a one-liner. He may have written a paragraph that would ignite, and he can industrialize and manufacture and communicate 28, 10, 1 about his belief. As much as he would need these numbers, because these are quite industrious numbers in that you can handle bigger things. You're not an average human being. The issue is when you have a 10-1-1 outcome. This person, I mean, we all have the ability, whatever it is, but can think of self only. I mean, he has the 12-3, so he's community-based, community, 3 community. He's got lots of 3s. 13-4 can create the laws of whatever he's created, yeah. For me, 1 is a problem, because it is one man's thought, right? It is one person's ideal. Now we can say a lot of churches, a lot of cults or whatever, offspring of that, and then another thing of that. For me, the 1 doesn't work, in my humble opinion. What I found intriguing was the day of his passing. Look at the day of his passing. There are 666 here. And in the +9, it's showing a type of a sacrificial death, like the Lord Underwater King has died. It's almost like he controlled his death. 49, 13, 4. His death was controlled. But alarmingly, what it's also showing you, these are a lot of children numbers here. Remember, this is not necessarily who he was or anything. It's just, this is another link in his timeline. The day before, in the -1, we have all the 12-3s. The day after 26-8. Why would there be a 26-8? There's a 14-5. Strange numbers here for his passing, by the way. Strange numbers for his passing, unless he just went back into his underwater capsule and went back underwater somewhere. Alright, so I've shown that the link between Mike Hubbard and David. So the Sea Org, they have the 12-3, they have the 23-5, larger community serving a larger community. For example, I mean, we know Scientology is all over the world. This 11-2 in the middle here. So based on the background, this is a naval situation, right? And it's meant to be like a military type thing. I could be wrong. But as far as I'm getting, it's military. I beg your pardon, naval type, naval military, right? 11.2 in the middle of the day is if you had said this was a law firm with an 11.2 here, then I'd say, okay, 11.2. And if they are a law firm and they've got all these sevens, all about justice, human rights, okay. But it's not a law firm. So, in other words, 11.2, what is illegal about this thing? This is actually saying there's something illegal here. That's why I find it just happens to be, yes, that there's a hidden 22, but they are supposedly seafaring, which is large bodies, masses of water, 20 outcome 2. So we have the presence of staging numbers. 43.7 is a staging number, as we saw in this one here. In the +9, you would have a 43.7. These numbers, the 7 does speak about nautical, naval, but the 16.7 I keep getting that hint of surveillance. 9. See, in the +9 of Sea Org, you would get a 29.11.2, hidden 29.11.2. It's like going from bad to worse. So let's just look at the day that it's pronounced as he's passing. See if we pick up any anomalies. So here's 6, which speaks about stomach, can speak about, he had a particular cancer in what we refer to as the esophagus. So the next day there's cancer number 7, 16.7. In the +3 of his passing, we see also a portal here, 9 with a stack of 9s. That's quite interesting, actually. That's interesting. So in January 11, what would be the +6, that's very interesting. 12.3. So 12.3 on one hand can speak about how the one organ serves the other organ, and some are under stress, some aren't working. So these 14.5 in a medical aspect, 14.5 difficulties, the human is going through difficulties. 15.6 speaks about the stomach area. And I know it wasn't particularly stomach cancer, but it was the esophagus. But, the 6 speaks about the stomach area. I think that would, in my opinion, we know how cancer works. I was with my father right till the last second. At some point, the actual person leaves. It's purely just body function, right? Body going through its final functions, right? Eventually culminating in a heart attack. So a heart attack is 6. Because the reason why I'm saying that, on January the 3rd year, so I would say January the 3rd, look at the 4s, let's just zoom in here. So there's that 3 that we spoke about, the 12-3, like all the systems together. Here it is here at the top, 3. 4 is the anatomical processes has died. So the human effectively has passed here. So what is happening is the body, 4, is going through its final phases. So for me, January the 3rd was the day, in my opinion. So for me, January the 3rd into 4th would have been the passing moment, in my opinion. Yeah, let me just say that. I'm not going to describe what I saw with my father. Because in the end, it was, in my opinion, it was only just the body going through its motions, right? And when the heart stops, then that's it. So if it's the 3rd, the 6 can be reflective. I'm just double checking. So there's 6, stomach. 7 is the Cancer. 16, so I'm looking reflectively for the 3rd on the 6 here. So there's definitely signs of Cancer. When I looked at the information and text, I didn't feel there was issues there. But of course, I wonder how many times they thought of taking him out, right? So, yeah, man, it's probably one of the closest guarded secrets organizations, each to their own. And, I knew someone that was in the Scientology church here in South Africa. And he was more superior to me in my work life. But, interesting. Why does the church, and I mean, I'll need to learn more, but it happened to the person I'm talking about as well, is why do they have to give all their money away? And by the way, this Hubbard, 28-10-1, 19-10-1, 10-1, 10-1 can bring about muchos money, big money. So he would have definitely had a money focus, organizational focus as well. But I thought interestingly, they're all connected by the 16-7, spiritually. So these 3 people here would have crossed paths on a previous life as well. Maybe under the water. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please leave your thoughts and comments. I thought I'd just take a peek. And let me know your thoughts and comments. Stay safe, stay alert. Bye for now.